A very good evening, a warm welcome, not really a warm welcome at all, a freezing welcome to Johannesburg, where I am, and welcome to you wherever you are around the world watching on. And there are a couple of reasons I am dressed as I am and drinking what I am. The hat, this is the guys at Sports Fan who very kindly sent me some winter gear ahead of the Springbok Test match this weekend. I think it's supposed to be for the Dan Nichols show, but I shall wear it for Dan Really Likes Wine because I think it was about 1 degree this morning when I left the house. Why would I leave the house this morning? Well, that is the other reason for celebrating, and a reason I'm particularly happy to have some Cap Classique on the go. I managed to get my first vaccination, so bang, halfway there, and en route to getting fully jabbed up. So a happy Dan today, and all the more so because I've got some really, really cool wine on the show today. Wine which I hope will be drinking freely and moving freely and selling freely once again next week. If you were listening on Monday's show, you would have heard Mike Ratcliffe, chairman of Stellenbosch Wine Routes, amongst his myriad other roles, suggesting that come Sunday there will be a relaxation of the current regulations with regard to alcohol. There is the Vinpro court case in which the decision has been reserved for now, but the feeling that I get, the suggestion I get from people in the industry is that we will be back to at least some sort of sales and distribution come Monday morning, and that cannot come too soon. As we've said many times, it has been a very difficult time for our industry, but we're hopefully back on our feet a little again from Monday. So what is on the show this evening? Well, a little later, someone we've had on the show before. We've had him in the vein of KWV in general. Today he joins us from the perspective of KWV's Cathedral Cellars. Not only some terrific wine, but also a really cool story and some rather fun technology. It makes you feel you're on acid looking at wine labels. We'll find out exactly what that is about with Justin a little later on, who is the Imperial winemaking overlord at KWV, but also looks after the Cathedral Cellar range. So we'll chat to him just a little later. We've had Justin on the show before. We have not, to my great shame, had the team from Lords on before, and I have to apologize here, because I think we mentioned in some of our social media building up that this was a team out of Robertson. Well, not quite. They're close enough to Robertson, but it's more Mcgregor than Robertson. It is Lords. Is there a cricket link? Well, I hope so. There's certainly some terrific wine. So let's head over to Yaki, who put the brand together, and to Jacques. Gentlemen, a very warm welcome. Thanks for being on Dan Really Likes Wine.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having us.
Thank you.
I see a blazing fire in the background. That would suggest it is no warmer in Montague than it is in Johannesburg. And Mcgregor.
Yeah, it's absolutely freezing. But the fire looks very small on the camera, but it's actually very big. It's nice and warm, so we can't complain.
Well, you also can't complain given the size of the bottles in front of you. One of the stickers you've got there as well, which suggests wine that's been much loved around the world. Before we jump into the wine, we've got 2 bottles of your bubbles to try. Can you give us a bit of the history of the Lords brand, how it came about, and if there is indeed a cricket link, which I'm hoping there is?
Yeah, we started the cellar in 2005. We built the cellar, and our first wine was made here in 2006. So yeah, that was the start of Lords. The name just came from, I love cricket, and everybody's asking me, can I play cricket? I'm a very bad cricketer, or was a very bad cricketer. But yeah, that's where the name. We were looking for a very short name that people can remember. And yeah, we just love cricket, and that's where the name came from.
Have you been to Lords, Yaki?
No, unfortunately, I have. As you know, the wine industry, we don't make that lot of money. So yeah, maybe one day I will be there. So yeah, hopefully.
Give us a little bit of a story about your journey into wine. I know you're from Mcgregor originally. The family is from that part of the world. What pushed you into the world of wine and creating this Lords brand?
Yeah, I was born here on the farm. My granddad bought the farm in 1929, and I think it was round about 1993, I came back to the farm and start farming with my dad. And then we were thinking of building the cellar, and so I cut off a piece of land here and about 33 hectares, and we start the winery and the vines, and yeah, that is basically where we start off.
And you've created a brand now that's had a lot of success. It's not just those stickers suggest, but the general feedback, the general appreciation for the wine that you have. Jacques, the Lord's story. I know you've had a very high-profile PR background. You've done a lot of work in a lot of great different spaces. How did you find your way into this little corner of Mcgregor?
Well, I had to leave Mcgregor a little bit just to go and find myself, and my father allowed me to do so. And he one day asked me, what do I want to do? And I said, one day I'd like to do PR. And he said, why one day? So that sparked me to go into PR full ahead. And then, yeah, I lived in Cape Town and then worked for different companies, and the Cellar was one of my clients, and long story short, I made the decision to come back and focus on the family business. And I had to go out there to experience everything and learn a lot to bring it back here and to push our brand. And I'm absolutely loving it. It's great to work towards the same goal as your boss. So.
I'd imagine it's both exciting and challenging in that you've got a fairly bespoke corner of South Africa's wine terroir in Mcgregor. It's not absolutely full of vineyards, but it does give you a unique space to market and to push out. What's the story that you tell people through PR about the wine Mcgregor in general, about the wine of Lords in particular?
I think what we mostly push is the family story because it's so unique, and when we tell people about Lords and the family story, we also tell them that we're hidden in between mountains, and it's like a little oasis. So when people arrive here, they think on their way here, they're like, when the hell are we going to get there? And once they come over the hill, they see the beautiful lush green lawns and fynbos and proteas all around them. So that is a big selling point. But the most big of the thing that pulls people towards us is the family story. And I think a lot of people love to see that families can work together. And it's part of South Africa. Family always first.
It's probably appropriate, Yucky, that you are such a cricket fan, given that I think the farm also used to, perhaps still does, farm proteas, different kind of proteas linked to the world of cricket. The love of that has given you the name. It's also given you the chance to make wine that expresses Mcgregor. We know Robertson does particularly well with its Cap Classique and is very celebrated for it. Does that apply to Mcgregor? Is there a big difference in terroir and style of winemaking between Mcgregor and Robertson?
We at Lords, our wines, we about 500 meters above sea level. It makes us much cooler than down in the valley in Robertson. They approximately 220 meters above sea level. So there's a difference in climate. So we're much cooler. I think we've got a difference of 3 to 5 degrees. And that helps a lot, especially on the Pinot Noir side. The Pinot Noir loves the cool air. And we're about 40 kilometers from the sea. So at nighttime, we get this nice cool breeze coming from the sea. So yeah, it helps a lot. But the guys down in the valley, they also make excellent Cap Classiques, and you know that the other guys, they're good in their business. I think this whole area is very good for Cap Classiques.
Yeah, I think there's a guy called Peter Ferreira who's made one or two reasonable projects over the course of time. It is such a great South African area. It's appreciated by many people. Skulk Stapelberg is watching. Great bubbles from Lords. Love it says Skulk. Valinda Oosthuizen, I wonder if there might be a family link there, says Moi Lords. Valinda, good to have you watching. Thanks for being on. Prakesh Patel, Lordy good Lord wine. Need a bigger bottle for the accolades. Well, let's talk about some of the accolades that Prakesh Patel mentions there, Jacques. Run us through. You've got stickers galore. What are some of those awards? What are some of the trophies, the accolades that you guys won for your Cap Classique?
Yeah, you would think we need just one more sticker to make the whole picture complete. But I think let's start with the Tim Atkin, our brut, which is a 70% Pinot Noir, 30% Chardonnay. I think I swapped it around now. But that one got a 92 score, and the Rosé got a 90 score from Tim Atkin. We won double platinum at the National Wine Challenge. Yeah, it's been a while. Rosé Rocks, Veritas, Michelangelo, double gold. So yeah, I think we've won some great accolades, and it's good to get the acknowledgement or recognition, the recognition, and to show that, hey, the Robertson Wine Valley can actually make fantastic and award-winning wine. So we are very proud of this.
From a PR perspective, your job is to sell the fantastic wine that gets made. It's not the first time we've asked this question on the show. From your perspective, though, and you've done a lot of PR generally, not just in the wine world, how much impact do those stickers have, those awards have, when you're then going out to market or going out to the media world and saying, we have just won this? Is it just a nice to have, or does it genuinely impact on the bottom line and on your sales?
I think it definitely has an impact on sales. It's great to get the recognition, and in the media, it's good to put Mcgregor and Robertson on the map and give more exposure to the area to get more people here. But it definitely, the stickers help when you're in a shop and there are more than 100 bottles of wine in front of you, and you stand there in front of all those wines and you don't know what you want. Then you look at accolades, and I've tried it once in Pick n Pay, actually in Cape Town when I was still living there, and I didn't know what wine to choose, and I thought, I'm going to see what this lady next to me is going to take, and then she looked at me, so I picked up a bottle to see what she's going to do, and I said, Tim Atkin, and I put the bottle back and I stepped away, and she went to take that bottle. So it definitely helps, especially when you're in front of 100 bottles, and South Africa, we've got plenty of wineries, so it is difficult. So this really helps to make you stand out a little bit more.
So what you need to do then really is just sit in Pick n Pay all day and pick up bottles and speak very loudly about Tim Atkin. It's a challenge that I think you're assisted with by the fact that you are making some terrific wine, and I'm very anxious, Yaki, to taste these two wines here that we've got, the two Cap Classique. Before we do that, though, is it an urban legend or a true story that a big part of your love of wine came from a bottle of Burgundy that you were introduced to? And if it is actually true, what was that bottle of Burgundy?
No, I can't really remember that one. No. My love for wine is, it's just through the years, and we grew up on a wine farm, so it's just came through the generations. So I can't remember the Burgundy bottle.
All right, lost in the sands of time. Let's get on to the first of these wines, and it is a brut. If I'm not mistaken, it is Chardonnay Pinot Noir. Give us an introduction to this particular wine, what it says about Lords, about Mcgregor, and why you reckon it's doing the job for you.
I think that the 70% Chardonnay and the 30% Pinot Noir makes this MCC quite a terrific wine. I think it speaks for itself. Jack can help me with the wording.
So how I usually describe this one is it's more like a traditional dry MCC You can pick up crisp green apple when you taste it. It's just absolutely fantastic. And it only has 1.3 gram of sugar per liter, which is very low. So no headache.
Which is always an added bonus. It is non-vintage. It's obviously a very deliberate decision. How much of this wine are you making, and how much of a challenge is it, given that you're producing a non-vintage, so you want to try and keep a similarity each year to get the wine to taste year in year out something that is very similar?
No, I think that the non-vintage is just easier for us to go from the 1 year over to the next year. It's instead of putting every year the vintage on the bottle, it's easier for all our champagne is quite through the years it stay the same, and plus minus taste the same. So for us, it's working to leave it on vintage. Yeah.
You make a selection of different wines. We're tasting Cap Classique today, in part because we continue to celebrate 50 years of Cap Classique in South Africa. It's a very proud anniversary and a proud milestone for South Africa. The challenge, Jackie, in terms of making Cap Classique versus making the other wines, the still wines that you make, is this easier, harder, more rewarding? How does this differentiate from the others for you?
I think that through the years, the market is growing in Cap Classique. We can see through this lockdown period, the sales are a little bit down. There's not a lot of party and happiness. So I think, but through the years, it's growing every year. The sales of Cap Classique is growing. So that is the positive thing of this whole industry. And we at Lords already make 50% of our grapes. We make Cap Classique. We do plus minus 30,000 bottles per year now. So that is our aim to grow in Cap Classique. That is our main drive.
And it's a drive, Jacques, that seems to be going fairly global. When you have a flick through the Lord's website, there are all manner of countries around the world where you can pick up a bottle of Lord's. What is your global footprint, and how much of your wine is going out around the world?
I think my father would say not enough. Anyone would say you're not exporting enough. But we're in Denmark, in Norway, in Mauritius. It's all over. We're trying to get I think everyone else in South Africa and all the other wineries are now trying to export their wines. With our wine lockdown now, we have to export. But we are definitely working on getting it out there, because we are a small cellar. We have to work extremely hard to get it out there. But I think once we get the bottle over there, the samples over there, and they taste it, then it's definite that they will take it. So we try hard, and it's working. But we mostly sell from the farm direct to client. That is that's what pulled us through this whole pandemic, is the loyalty of the South Africans and our supporters and fans.
No, I think it's pulled the country through as a whole, not just the wine industry. That industry has been particularly beneficial of the public support. We need it again, hopefully from Monday. We've tried the Brut, and delightful it is. We do have a second Cap Classique. So let's head over to the Rosé. Would I be right, Jackie, in suggesting that this is a 100% Pinot Noir?
Yeah, you're 100%. It is 100% Pinot Noir. It's as you know, Pinot Noir is a difficult grape to do. We do the whole bunch pressing, and we've got a big market with the ladies. The ladies love this rosé, and it is actually our fastest grower. And you won't believe it, it's also the ladies is our best clients on on the bubbles. So yeah.
I'm not terribly surprised. I'm looking forward to trying it. Tell me a little bit about that Pinot Noir before I do taste it, though. I know you're higher up than Robertson. That's slightly cooler climate. When we think of Pinot Noir, when we think of the Burgundian style of wine in South Africa, we tend to think more the Emelanada or Elgin area. And yet, when you think of the volume and how much Cap Classique is made, there is so much Pinot Noir in the broader Robertson area. Being that bit higher, how much of an advantage does that give you for the Pinot Noir components, or in this case, the 100% Pinot Noir that goes into the rosé?
Yeah, I think that the Pinot Noir, because of the coolness, it's excellent here. We're not far from Emelanada. They're about 10 kilometers as the crow fly. So we don't fall under their area, we fall under the Robertson area. But Pinot Noir is working for us, and you can see down in the valley, the guys that are a little bit higher, it's also working for them. So yeah, the Peter Ferreiras and these guys, they also have a lot of Pinot Noir. So yeah, I think it's doing good in our area as well.
Let's look at the marketing side of it. I think the rosé world, really. We had a great rosé show a few weeks ago, Jacques, where we spoke about how rosés opened up to a far broader demographic. People who once upon a time would never have been caught dead drinking rosé have now happily got a glass of something pink. Is that a fair assessment of as much as the female market seems to dominate for you guys? Is it broadening? Are more people buying and enjoying your rosé bubbles?
Oh yes, 100%. I think Pinot Noir, rosé in general, and Cap Classique rosé, the photograph's beautiful, and everyone loves social media, and they're on there sharing their pictures of how they're celebrating life. Not these days that much, but it photographs well, and I think people also get educated at tasting rooms these days, or get educated via whether it's a Zoom, a live thing. People get educated on wine, and then they know more, and people want to know more about wine, so their palate also changes to that. They drink more top quality wines, and yeah, the entry, the gateway wine, their palate evolve with us. So definitely the market is growing. Rosé is on an upward spike. So I would definitely say here at Lord's as well, it's growing.
And that general change is in no small part because the nature of rosé has changed as well. It's no longer sickeningly sweet and gives you diabetes if you look at it. It's often a lot drier. And I'm trying yours here, Yaki. This is incredibly dry. It's almost got a sense of sort of zero dosage. How much sugar is in this particular bubbles?
Yeah, I think the RS on that specific one is 1.5. Yeah, it is. I think, and as you mentioned, it's zero dosage. So yeah, so we love this wine. That is. We're very proud of it.
I'm reminded of a conversation I had a couple of weeks ago with Henk Vanika from Paul Rene, where he also had a fire behind him, and he had a couple of bottles of bubbles with him, and was adamant it was the perfect winter drink. And this is so dry, and so it's really lovely for summer, but it is going down rather nasty and cold. Johannesburg night. Speaking of the temperature, Helen Nichol, my dear mother, is watching in Northern Ireland, melting here in Belfast. So don't envy the roaring fire, but definitely envy the wine. So you should. This is a delight. And Johan Beck, Yaki, your wine's really coming of age. UCC developing beautifully. Well, Johan, you raise a point of age there. Give us a sense, guys, the aging of these. I know they are non-vintage, but I'm picking the bottle up off the rack. Should I be drinking it this week? Should I be hanging on to it a little later? Is there an aging potential to these, given that they are non-vintage?
No, I think the luck with bubbles is you can keep it for many years, but it lie on the lease for at least 12 months, and you know that's sort of our law in South Africa, that We don't degorge before 12 months, but some of our MCCs will lie for 18 months and more than that. So we've just done 2012 vintages, so that will be on the market also very soon. So yeah, we can't wait to see what it's going to do in the market, these vintage
which speaks of what lies on the horizon. 5 years' time, I'm coming down to Mcgregor. I come and catch up with you guys. What's changed? What's developed? What's going to be new? What do you guys have planned over the next few years for Lords?
Yeah, we're very privileged that we're growing every year. So we're in a up, and we excited. Yeah, it's just we're in a good place. So
yeah, I think we are expanding by the year. Like I just look back what happened in the last year. We extended our wedding venue / tasting room. We've done some barrel selection wines, and we are just expanding. The team is expanding our range of all the wines that we do. That's growing. So I think in 5 years' time, everything's gonna change very quickly. So people will have to come and visit us once they can. Just experience it for themselves and see how we grow. Because every time when people come back here after 6 months, there's something totally different. So everything is happening very quickly, but it's good, and we're excited about the future and what else is going to happen. But we can't tell you too much. But the one thing that you can look out for is our vintage MCCs. It's the labels will look different than this, so just people have to keep an eye out for that.
We certainly will. You can include me on that list of people who'll be coming down to Mcgregor. I've had a number of visits over the years on the Absa Cape Epic. I look forward to being back again soon. I'll certainly come and pay a visit. Before I let you go, one of the things we're pushing this year on the show, purely out of my own interest, is Cap Classique in its 50th year as something to have with food. So pick one of the two wines each of you. One of you the Brut, the other the Rosé. Don't mind who. But give me a dish. Perhaps in winter, perhaps not, but a dish that's going to go really, really well with each of these wines to wrap up Lords on the show tonight.
yeah, I think that fish will go very well with the rosé. Yeah, that is what I will go.
Yeah, I think the acidity of the Cap Classique will cut through the fattiness of the fish. But yeah, I think a classic that everyone loves is oysters and champagne. I think a lot of people miss it as well. They miss going to festivals where they had that. So I would say with any of these two, oysters and champagne or Cap Classique.
It's a combination that is hard to argue with, and it's far better than the last one I got. And I made the mistake of asking Steve Steinfeld, the Joburg foodie, what to have with champagne, and his recommendation was McDonald's fries, which I think we will happily sidestep. Oysters sounds a far better bet. My last request is one for you, Yaki. The next time we speak, I'd like it to be a video call if possible, as you've got a glass in hand, maybe even a glass of Lords, but I'm not so much worried about the wine as I am the venue. I'd like you to be at Lords, at the cricket field, game playing out over your shoulder, and raising a glass to getting to the second most famous Lords venue in the world.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we hope that it will come true. Thank you.
All right, Jacques, Yaki, thank you both so much down in Mcgregor, where it is as cold there as it is here, and trying some of the fabulous bubbles. There's also a terrific Shiraz, and it's Shiraz Day this week as well. So lots of lovely wine to try, and maybe just one more competition to find for that last little cap on the bottle for another sticker. Guys, thank you so much. Enjoy the evening, and thanks for some terrific bubbles. Much appreciated.
Cheers. Bye-bye, guys.
There we go. Team Oosthuizen down at Lords. I think they made this hat for somebody with a head slightly bigger than mine. It keeps slipping down, but it is keeping my forehead nice and warm. Yaki, who oversees the operation down at Lord's, kicked it off, a lifelong dream, and named it in honour of his love of cricket. And I really hope he gets to Lord's one day. I'm a cricket tragic myself, and it would be great to hear that he's finally got to the ground, after which he named his wine brand. Thanks to Jacques as well, long career in PR and now doing a sterling job at Lord's itself. So, Bubbles kicking us off. Let's move over in cold weather to some red wine. And red wine that comes with a rather high-tech accompaniment, the chance to have a look at labels and see something rather special. How does it all work? Well, let's head over to man. He's been on the show before. We are very happy to have him back. Justin, welcome back to Dan Really Likes Wine.
Hi, Dan. Yeah, it's great to be back again. And yeah, very cold Boland winter's day, snow in the mountains. So it's good to be back.
I have this vision that you're sitting there looking quite serious and focused and ready to take us through a really good session of drinking some quality wine. And over in the corner somewhere is Iselle from the Mentors with some Romanian grape nobody's ever heard of, busy on her 19th tasting of the day and working through some more utterly bizarre wines. Is that the case, or have you sent her off for the day?
No, she's very much still running around on site, being the mad scientist she is, putting some incredible wines together. Yeah.
She is indeed. It's a wonderful team that you guys have got. Whenever I speak to any of you, it's a great deal of fun to have you on and talk about the wine. We've spoken about KWV wine more generally with you in the past. Today we speak about the Cathedral Cellar brand, and it's a brand that requires a little bit of introduction from you. The label looks great. What is Cathedral Cellar? Where is Cathedral Cellar? Give us a little bit of background to the name.
So Cathedral Cellar is actually, there is a cellar on this KWV complex. We have it's actually a central location that's quite iconic in the South African industry. It was built in 1930, so it's 91 years old. It's still a functional part of our program, of our winemaking program. It's an integral part of our day-to-day operations. Unfortunately, I tried to broadcast from there earlier, but the Wi-Fi and the signal's kind of weak, so I can't show you the inside of the Cathedral Cellar. But it's very much is the cathedral. It's got a wonderful sort of stained glass windows that look north, so east-west, to basically as sunrise, sunsets over Paarl. You can the light changes within the cellar, but it's all centered around these huge old Stukvater, which are, if you can see basically on the label, a rough indication of what it looked like, and each of these old barrels have been very intricately carved with a milestone in the South African industry. So the Cathedral Cellar is quite an iconic building within the South African wine culture. It's served many a good function and a good party over the year, and unfortunately, we can't host any of those at the moment. And we're all looking forward to the day when everyone's all vaccinated and COVID's behind us, and we can start welcoming people back to Cathedral Cellar.
It cannot come too soon. There's a real sense of history to this label. You get a look at it and it just feels old school, and there's some heritage to it. In terms of the KWV family, it's a vast family, and there are all manner of labels that come together to form part of it. Where does Cathedral Cellar sit in the pecking order, in the entangled family tree that is KWV wine?
So Cathedral Cellar is actually a very well-established brand internationally, and has been sort of people overseas have been enjoying the brand for many years. It's very popular in North America, very strong in Europe. So we have a very loyal international following. But with the history of KWV and not being able to trade locally when KWV was sort of the legislative body of South Africa. It's one of the constraints that was put on us, that we weren't allowed to trade locally. Not many people knew the Cathedral Cellar brand, unless you knew someone intimately at KWV that you could somehow get your hands on some illicit Cathedral Cellar. So it's only in the last couple of years that Cathedral Cellar is actually coming to the local South African market. I mean, so it's relatively new in the South African market as a brand, but we have a very big loyal following internationally. And with regards to where it sits in quality and within its in the tiering in KWV, it's pretty much one of our premium wines. It stands to basically be a benchmark for South Africa as a whole. We like to see Cathedral Cellar as the best representation of what the specific varietal or blend could be that South Africa could put on the table and can compete against any other international benchmark that's out there. So we're really quite excited that more and more South Africans are discovering Cathedral Cellar, and yeah, we're very happy with how the wine is turning out.
The discussion, the reminder of people illicitly having to get wine, that of course is nothing any South African has been doing over the last while. We certainly wouldn't do anything like that. The labels, before we get into the wine, it's a really cool story. It's something quite new, something quite innovative, something I'm still trying to get my head around. We're going to have a look at exactly how they work in a moment, but give us an understanding, an introduction to the new technology, to the new approach that you guys have built into your labeling.
Yeah, so the technology is basically augmented reality, and it basically enables us to interact a lot more closely with consumers, to tell the story behind each wine and the story behind the barrels. You can see on the label, each wine has a little history and story about one of the unique barrels that are situated in the Cathedral Cellar. But basically, if you purchase a bottle of Cathedral Cellar, you'll get a little aerator pourer. If you like me and generally mess red wine over white tablecloths, these things are quite come in handy. But on the back there's a QR code which will take you to an app to download, or you can Google the app. It's Labels in Motion, and then what it does is that it comes up on your phone, and then you can, I think, hopefully I'll be able to show you. Once you've got the app, you can scan it over the label, and sorry, this is not working 100% because I'm not ambidextrous with left and right. And then it basically starts telling you a bit of a story about that specific wine. There we go. So it almost takes you on a tour of the Cathedral Cellar itself. So unfortunately, I can't take you there now. But if you get a bottle of Cathedral Cellar, download the app. It's a bit of history of the Cathedral Cellar, a little bit about the wine, how it was made. So it's just a more interactive way that we can engage with the consumer. And as we know, in days of COVID, everyone's having to be more innovative and creative. This is just another way that we can get closer to sharing a glass of wine and not doing it in person.
Well, Justin's done an admirable job of trying to show us how the tech works, but we can actually go one better. We'll stay on screen, but we've got a quick video. So this is an introduction to you of how the AR technology works on the Cathedral Cellar labels.
Made and guarded underneath the towering dome of KWV's Cathedral Cellar, our wines reflect an engraved legacy, inspired by the story of the South African wine industry. Centenary Barrel. Pinotage exemplifies innovation. Dr. Abraham Perold, who worked at KWV during the early years, invented Pinotage by combining Cinsault and Pinot Noir, giving rise to South Africa's very own signature grape. This innovation remains a cornerstone at KWV. Barrel number 2, Crushing of the Grapes. A small dream that resulted in a big feat. The first batch of grapes pressed in the Cape was so small that it could all be done by hand. Barrel number 12, Bacchus. The Roman god of merriment, Bacchus, illustrates this wine's food pairing quality. With a gripping tannin structure and a rich black fruit core, it's best enjoyed with a generous roast and in the company of friends. Barrel number 1, the Sailing Vessel. In 1655, the first wines were brought to the Cape in this Dutch sailing vessel, giving birth to winemaking in the Cape. Barrel number 8, Headquarters. KWV has played a formative role in the South African wine industry. The facade of the KWV headquarters, with its intricate design, is a proud reminder of this honoured history, which lives on in the quality wine produced in its Cathedral Cellar.
So there we go. It's a really cool edition, Justin. A lot of fun, and it makes it a really immersive experience going wine shopping now.
Yeah, so it's all about having something unique and interacting more with the consumer. And yeah, we've had a lot of fun putting that together. And a big shout out to Tanya, who our brand manager, who put that out and got the innovation to actually pursue it. Yeah.
It's great to see. I see Tanya is watching. Too true, you know us well, Dan. As she says, I think that was a reference to Isel busy making bizarre and wondrous wine concoctions somewhere in a dark corner of the cellar. Also with us, Dean Totham. Hi from Winership Wines UK here in London. Listen out at the end. I've got an important message for all of our UK viewers for Dean and his Winership team, especially if you are a Springbok rugby fan. Dean also saying it is a cool app. It certainly is. And then a question, Justin, I'm not sure if you can answer this. A question from Fabian Letiek. Is the app working only with KWV wines?
No, I think there are certain other brands that have invested in this technology. So once you've got the app, there are other brands listed there that make use of the app.
All right. So you're getting contradicted there by your marketing director, Tanya, not saying she's shouting because it's all in capital letters. Fabian, only Cathedral for now. She shouts only in capital letters.
There we go. Tanya knows more than me.
Well, she follows up with some international ones. So a couple of Malawian Cabernet Sauvignons for you there, Fabian. But check out the Cathedral Cellar. It is really cool. Doesn't matter how cool the marketing is, though. It's got to be backed up by some pretty good wine. So let's have a look at it. We've got two of them here. We've got the Shiraz and the Triptych. Which one are we going to kick off with, Mr. Gorhams?
Let's kick off with the Shiraz.
Perfect. So this is 2018. Where is it from? Good wine to be having. It is International Shiraz Day or Week. I know we celebrated it earlier this month with a few brands, but we'll continue that into today. Give us the story of where this is from and what we're drinking here.
So, like I was saying earlier, we want Cathedral Cellar Shiraz to actually stand out as one of the benchmarks coming from South Africa, and to stand next to any Shiraz from Australia or from France, and to be uniquely South African. So we source predominantly from vineyards around Paarl, predominantly Paarl, Wellington, Stellenbosch, coming out of Swartland as well. And it's all about putting those unique sites together to create something that is quite distinctively South African in style. Shiraz is a great varietal that's, it works very well in South Africa's climate. I mean, we've put out, as a country, some really, really good Shirazes over the years. And there are stylistic differences between different regions. This is very much more a fruit-driven, sort of lots of plums, a little bit of sort of that spicy white pepper note coming through, but quite a fruit-driven, very plush, full-bodied wine that, I think pretty much goes well with most sort of meat dishes. And on a cold winter's day like today, I'm quite grateful to have a bottle of wine open next to me right now.
One which doesn't have a very long lifespan, I would imagine. It's a grape that tends to amplify terroir quite specifically. Where are these grapes from?
So as I was saying, we've got quite extensive growers that deliver grapes to us, predominantly Swartland, Paarl, Stellenbosch. So we very much focus the premium sort of Shiraz growing areas to supply fruit for Cathedral Cellar, and that's kind of in line with how we want it positioned internationally. Then when it comes to the cellar, we have the picking decision is probably the most important sort of winemaking decision you have to make in the whole process. So we have a quite active and enthusiastic viticultural team that sort of are actively in the vineyards, and just making sure that when they feel it's right, they give the winemakers a shot. We all go out to the vineyards and we taste the fruit and say, yes, it's ready, it's coming. And so we really are very heavily dependent on making the right call when to bring it into the cellar. The processing in the cellar is there are some tricks of the trade, but predominantly we're very much more reliant on the site, that's the quality coming from the site from where these vineyards are. Then we give it some extra love and attention in the winery. It sees about 18 months maturation, some of it in the Cathedral Cellar itself. So as I was saying earlier, it is a functional cellar. We do use it for functions, but it is very much a part of the day-to-day operations within us producing wine. So outside of the central cathedral of the building, you have sort of annexes in the cellar where we have some of the smaller barrels, and that's where the Cathedral Cellar red wines are matured, and it's about 18 months, 35% new oak, just to get the right sort of balance of wood tannin, toastiness, to give a little bit of lift to the structure, but not to overpower the fruit.
Well, that is exactly what it comes through the Cathedral Cellar Shiraz. This is the 2018, drinking very nicely now on a cold winter's evening. And much like Justin's bottle, it's not going to last very long, particularly when my wife gets hold of it shortly. Let's have a look at your other wine for this evening. It is the Triptych. That would suggest there are 3 grapes making this up, Justin?
That is what everyone thinks, but Triptych is very much more an ode to the 3 forces of making wine, which is pretty much terroir, human intervention through the winemaker, and the cellar itself, the Cathedral Cellar itself. So that's kind of where the name Triptych comes from. It is a blended wine, and I've always in our previous conversations also hinted very strongly, I think the art of winemaking comes to its fore when you blend a wine. So this is a Cab Shiraz dominant blend. But we've also put in a couple of other secrets, some of those interesting cultivars that Isel plays around with. There's some Tempranillo, Petit Verdot, a bit of Malbec, Petit Syrah that goes into this blend, just to bring a complete different dimension. So I don't really want to tell people, don't classify it as a Bordeaux blend. It's not a Bordeaux blend. It's not a Rhone blend. This is the Cathedral Cellar triptych. It's a blend in its own right. So we're looking purely for a nice complex wine that gives sort of fruit, a bit of freshness, nice full-bodied structure, and have length on the palate. A similar sort of maturation as the Shiraz, also looking at about 18 months, also about 30% new oak. But it's kind of epitomizes the winemaker's art of taking different components, putting together, and creating something that is quite unique that you'd only find in Cathedral Cellar triptych.
We shall call it a Corrance blend from here on in, and nothing else. It sounds like Isel is being a particularly bad influence and leading you down the dark rabbit holes that she inhabits so gleefully when it comes to making wine. When you're creating something like this, just before we wrap up, I get the vision of an artist with a palette, and you're picking a bit of one color here and a bit from another, and seeing what comes together and what you're able to make. Where does the line sit between this is so exciting and this is mildly terrifying, because I could create something incredible, but I certainly don't want to get it wrong?
Yeah, so that always opens a huge debate. I mean, we're actually sitting in the tasting room that's basically an extension of my office, and we have a long lined up here where we have a lot of those discussions and debates, and we also blend a wine with the consumer in mind as well. So one of the biggest challenges of being winemakers is that we are often very opinionated and have strong opinions, but that doesn't necessarily mean what our consumer wants as well. So we do go through those discussions, even internally for myself. There's often a unique style of wine that I personally would drink liters and liters of, but knowing that within where that brand is positioned in the market and how the consumers perceive it, they don't necessarily have the same taste as me. So it's always that internal struggle, making a wine that you personally love yourself versus what your consumer and loyal customer that's been buying your wine for many years, what he's going to enjoy. So sometimes you've got to put your own preference away and focus on what your customer wants.
I do get that, but I think in closing, my feeling is you're a fantastic winemaker. You've been doing it for long enough. If you believe in something and you believe it's good and believe it's right, I think there'll be more than enough people who'll be inclined to agree with you. But that is my opinion. Very quick question for you from Dean Totham at Winership in the UK. Wants to know, when was the Cathedral Cellar wines born? When did they kick off?
So yeah, the Cathedral Cellar itself was established in 1930. The brand, I'm speaking under correction, I think Tanya might have to jump in here, but Cathedral Cellar has been going for quite a few years. I mean, I remember when I was a young student coming into the wine industry, dragging pipes, working in a cellar, you still couldn't get KWV wines in South Africa, and I knew a couple of people, and I remember sort of striving after Cathedral Cellar, and that was in the sort of late 90s, and there are a couple of bottles in our Vinatier that go back to the 80s. So I'm guessing the first sort of Cathedral Cellar came into the market around about the 80s.
All right. Launched in South Africa in 2018, Tanya confirms.
In South Africa in 2018, that's correct, yeah.
And back 91 years, 1930, as Fabienne points out, with a deft piece of mathematical genius, which is not bad for the end of a wine show. And Dean asking about the dominant varietal. It is led by Cabernet Sauvignon, and then basically everything he can find in buckets left over by Azelle somewhere in the cellar. Justin, fantastic wine, lovely to try. A wine I don't think many South Africans have had the opportunity to try huge amounts of or know too much about within the broader palette of KWV. So great to be able to celebrate it today, and to do so with your very cool millennial technology. I know Tanya's doubtless TikToking away about it at the moment. It's a really cool addition to some really cool wine. So thank you for sharing both of them with us. Enjoy the rest of that wine on a cool night down in the winelands, and look forward to having you back on the show again soon.
Great, Dan. Yeah, thanks for having me again. And yeah, I hope that beanie is going to keep you warm. I have to go brave the cold outside to get home. But yeah, have a great evening.
There you go, Justin Currans from KWV, overseeing, amongst other things, the Cathedral Cellar range, drinking it tonight, wrapping up with the Triptych, which not quite Bordeaux, certainly not Rhone. As I said, let's just call it a Corrance blend, led by Cabernet Sauvignon, but all sorts of other intriguing little bits and pieces, making up a very welcoming and comforting patchwork quilt of a red blend. That wraps us up this evening. But to tell you what I said I would about Dean, Dean Totham and his team at Winership Wines, they've got a deal going at the moment with the guys at Boschendal, the official wine brand of the British and Irish Lions Tour. And if you buy the commemorative wines, which they have available, you can get onto a private virtual video session with myself and a selection of the Springboks. Next Wednesday, I'll be down at Boschendal, and you'll be able to join me, a few of the Springboks, and hopefully you'll have some wine in hand at the moment. To do that, if you're in the UK, head down to Winership Wines, get yourself some of their special commemorative edition British and Irish Lions wines from Boschendal, and voila, you could be sitting online with me and some of the Springboks next week. Big thank you to everybody who's joined us on the show. Thank you to the team from Lords a little earlier, Jacques and Nyaki. Thank you very much indeed. Celebrating some bubbles as we mark 50 years of Cap Classique in South Africa. And a big thank you too to Justin, the team from KWV, Tanya and her team as well. And next time you're in the shops down at Pick and Pay, or you bump into a bottle of the Cathedral Cellar, scan it, use that Labels in Motion app, and you'll learn a whole lot more about the wine. And it's just a lot of fun, geekish in the very best possible way. As you can see, it's freezing. My beanie is slipping ever further down my forehead. I'm off to go and finish off my red wine beside a blazing fire, and look forward, we hope, to news on Sunday night of restrictions eased, and from next week, better times ahead for the South African wine industry. Thanks for watching. Thanks for drinking South African wine. See you again live, back again Monday night. Goodbye. To join the Pick and Pay Wine Club, simply SMS your smart shopper number to 36775. It's absolutely free, and you'll get for yourself 3 times the smart shopper points on every bottle of wine bought. You'll also get a 20% discount on 10 different wines each month, a 25% discount on a case of wine, and a Magnum, some terrific competitions and invitations to awesome events.